All right. Hello, friend. Welcome to Cam Answers. My name is Ron from CamMastery.com, where you can go to learn how to make great videos with Camtasia. Each week, I like to answer some questions that I get throughout the week, Camtasia questions specifically, and show you how I get those answers, how students get those answers. So if you don't know, I have a course, and if you want to know more about that course, you can head over to cammastery.com/store, and you'll be able to pick up that Cam Mastery 2020 course. And if you have questions about that course or questions about Camtasia, I'm happy to answer those. Or if you're a subscriber to the YouTube channel, also happy to answer there as well. So today, what questions do we have? Well, I'm glad you asked. So our first question today is about changing the FPS. The second question is about muting all tracks. And the third question is about a custom title. So let's look at that first one. Hey, how did you get 25 FPS and 50 FPS? Mine only gets 30 and 60, even though it's the latest version. Okay, well, let's check that out. So one of the things I have to ask just to make sure is, are you using the latest version for sure? Because I know that older versions won't have that. So for example, if you go back to 2018, I know for sure that Camtasia 2018 doesn't have the 25 and 50 FPS options available, frames per second when we're talking about FPS. So if we want to edit and produce at 25 or 50 or some other frames per second, that you're going to find in the latest version. So if I head over to Camtasia, what I can see is I can go over to Help and About Camtasia. And when I go there, I can see I'm in version 20. So version 2020, specifically the 20.0.10. And they give a build number and a release date for that. So if you're not using that build, you probably won't be able to do this. But here in Camtasia, probably the fastest, easiest way to get there is to go up to the top and go to this drop down and go to Project Settings. Another way I like to do that, if I just cancel out of that, is I can right click and go to Project Settings. If I just right click on a blank canvas. And here I have the option for frame rate, and I have 25, 30, 50, and 60 FPS. So for the person who was asking about where did you find those, right here in the project settings. This is also a great place to start off your projects if you are going, if you're going to do anything different outside of like a 1920 by 1080 canvas at 30 frames per second. So it's a great place. I think last week or week before last, Lon Naylor, my good friend and Camtasia mentor, mentioned to me, he said, that's the first place I go. Before I do anything in Camtasia, I go to project settings, I set the canvas size, and make sure that everything is ready to go before I put the first thing on the canvas right there in Camtasia. So great place to start. Go to project settings, set your FPS, set your dimensions if you're working in something other than a standard format like 1920 by 1080, and then you should be good for the rest of your project. Our next question is, I'm going to have to zoom in on that because that's really tiny for me. So this person had watched a video, very helpful. Any tips or tricks on working with tracks? A shortcut lock or hide all tracks except this track. Is there a quick way to do that? And so basically lock and unlock multiple tracks. And again, this was a student, a YouTuber as well, or somebody who reached out to me on YouTube. And I typed an answer and I was like, oh, sorry, can't do that. It's not available just yet on PC, but it is available on Mac. And then Lon Naylor just jumped right in and he was like, actually, you can do that now on the latest version of Camtasia on PC. So let's go back to Camtasia and let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to cancel out of this. I am going to open a previous project that has a lot of tracks, and one we'll get to here in a moment. And while that's opening, you can see this screen. In fact, maybe I'll just hop onto this screen. So one of the things I didn't do, and I probably should have done, was I haven't been keeping up with what's new in Camtasia. And so TechSmith keeps a place with all the new things that are there in the Windows version, all the new things that are there in the Mac version. I'll step through a few of those here in just a moment, but I wanted to make sure that I show you the answer to this question. And if I go back over here, and I just happen to look at all these different tracks, let's go, where's a good place to go? Let's go here toward the end. So I have this, and I say, oh, there's this really just one track. I need to see this group right here. So it's here on track 6, and I want everything else to be gone. What I can do is I can right-click track 6. So let me zoom in here so you can see this rather easily. So if I right-click track 6, I can now see in these later versions of Camtasia 2020 that there's an option to enable solo track. So when I click this, notice everything is gone except this group. I just had, these two things, a circle and a rectangle or a box or something like that. And now everything else is gone. Oh, you can't see that. Let me zoom back out. So there, everything is gone after I did that. To get that back, if I zoom down here, I can just right-click again and choose to disable all solo tracks, and everything comes back. Okay, so let me show you that one more time. Full screen. I right-click. I say Enable Solo Track. I think I picked a different track. It doesn't matter. So here it is. Here's just that one thing. It happens to be a group, and everything else is gone. And I can see here on the left, it is literally disabling every other track. If I look at every track, it has the eyeball icon with a line through it, except this one that I have selected. Now, if I needed another track to go along with it, like I say, oh, actually the track below that goes with this. I can right-click the track below it and enable solo track for that as well. And so now it has those two parts. It happens to be black text, so that wasn't very helpful. Let me add one more. Right-click, enable solo track. There we go. So now I have those 3 tracks are the only ones being shown. Everything else is disabled. And like I said, I can continue to add more tracks if I need to see more, or when I'm done, right-click and disable all solo tracks. And then everything's back. So again, I want to send my appreciation over to Lon to making sure I'm answering people correctly. So thank you, Lon, for that. And yes, we can solo these out. So let's look at some of the other things that I have failed to keep up with in Camtasia. So I will jump back over to my screen, and specifically, I'm going to go over to my browser, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. And when I scroll down to the bottom, whoop, that's Camtasia 2019. I don't need that. So here are all the things they added in Camtasia 2020. I created a 5-minute video talking about all of those in a very quick format. And then if you look at my YouTube channel, I talk about, I believe, every single one of these things in my YouTube channel. So you can go back and see what all those things are. However, what are some other things they added? They obviously fixed a lot of things. So you can see the majority of things are just fixed. And then here at the bottom, fixed, fixed, fixed. But I'm curious about the things they added. So here it said added ability to set default placeholder media duration in user preferences. Interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay. I'm not like acting. I really didn't know that. So I'm going to go over to edit, preferences, and now I'm guessing it's timing. Animations, placeholder. There it is. So the default placeholder duration is 60 seconds. I didn't know that was there until right now. So there's one good reason to pay attention to what's happening in Camtasia. Okay, so that's one. Let's see, set the wave as the default audio format when exporting as audio only. Okay, so if I go up to export audio only, I guess it would default to wave. Mine happened to be M4A. Maybe I changed that along the way, but it looks like wave is at the top. So you can export in these 3 audio formats, WAV, MP3, and M4A. Okay, good to know. What's next? Added ability to export template file from the template manager menu. Okay, let's try that. Template manager menu file. Where am I? Manage templates. And what did it say I could do? Export template file. I can export a template file from here. There we go. I can export the template. Okay, so before I guess we could just delete and rename, now we can export templates. So if you needed to share that with a colleague, you could do that as well. Cool. Added ability to replace timeline media with other media on the timeline. Okay, I thought we could do that already. And I thought that was like, I have this oval, and if I wanted to replace it with this star, I could just drag the star down and replace it. And now that star replaces it. Or maybe, let me Control Z to undo that. Maybe it was, what if I had this octagon and I just dragged from here down here? Maybe that was it. Maybe it's from the timeline to another item on the timeline rather than somewhere on the media bin on the left. Okay. Not 100% sure, but okay, good to know. All right, these are all just fixed. Don't need those. I'm looking for what they added. Audio only project contains groups, behave like audio projects when sharing. Okay. Prevents import of certain invalid MOV types. Okay. Fixed. Properties no longer shown annotations when those properties do not apply. Okay. So I'm guessing that there were, options here in the properties panel that wouldn't apply to this, that were being shown before. So maybe, I don't know, maybe something over there. TIFF extensions can now be added to a project. Okay, so those are image files. Those TIFF files are images. Improved memory usage when creating new projects. Great. Fixed. Camtasia now tries multiple times to reach the licensing service. Okay, not an issue for me. Added track reorder feature to the editor. Okay, this was something else that they had in the Mac version for 2020. So let's say I want, let's go to here. And here I have the blur on top of the paper. But what if I want the paper over top of the track, or over top of the blur, which you would never want to do. But can I just grab this track, click and hold, and drag it up? It didn't work that time. Let me try again. Click and drag. There we go. And now I am moving that track. Look at that, moving it up and down freely within Camtasia. So now I don't have to right click. What we used to have to do is right click, insert a track below, and then move things, and then, copy and paste things that way. So nice. Good to know that one. What else do we have? Added option to share. Okay, I don't use Nomia. Fixed. Where's another added? Let's see. Oh, here's something. It's now possible to paste behaviors onto groups. Okay, to paste behaviors onto groups. So if I have a group, so here's a group, and I grab a behavior, and I drag it to this group. Now I can right click, and I don't see where I can copy behavior from a right click, but maybe I can do it from here. So right click, copy selected effects. Okay, maybe that's it. And then I can go over to this group too, right click, paste effects. So now is that properties thing on there? Yep. So now the behavior is there. Okay, cool. Good to know that. Added improvements for high DPI monitors. Okay, so if you're using something like a 4K monitor, I guess there's improvements there. Added capability for organizations' proxy servers to be used when contacting licensing. Okay. Doesn't affect me. And there's the solo track. Okay, or track solo. So there it is. I guess as of July, we were able to do this solo feature. I'm guessing that was the feature that Lon was talking about. Maybe, actually, it might have been something else, because that's track solo feature to the editor. That might be it. It might not be it. I don't know. Let's see. Fix. Improve accessibility. Added support for Portuguese. Added support for Spanish. Okay. What else did they add? Added option for export Smart Player files for hosting or use hosted Smart Player files. Okay, so if we export local file and we want something with a Smart Player, for example, so I would say I want to export this with the Smart Player. Next. No. Let's not do that. Let's instead do custom. Next. MP4 is good. Next. Here we go. So with the controller, if we produce with the controller, then we have these two options. So these options here at the bottom are newer. Export Smart Player files for hosting, or use Smart Player files. Use hosted Smart Player files. Okay. I've tried both of these. In fact, I think I have them in my temp videos temp. Yeah, so I did one with the recommended and one without. And I think there was only one slight difference. Looks like I delete. Oh, that says no player. Okay. I tried. There was like one file that was different that they added, I think, for this last option. I don't remember off the top of my head what it was. But to me, these looked to be nearly identical. So if you are exporting to a web page and it doesn't give you what you want, then try the other option. But for me, I've never had an issue, I don't think, where I've needed to change the Smart Player settings there. All right, rename the share button and made it export. Yes, so I noticed that. So at the top, this used to be the share menu. It's now the export menu. And then similarly here in the upper right, it used to say share. Now it says export. Okay. Where was that? That was here. Added clearer language capability in the editor to add export frames by right-clicking the playhead. Okay. Let's try that. So I want to export this frame. Right-click the playhead. There it is. Add exported frame. So now if I choose that, cool. And now that frame is there, and I can move that frame wherever I want. Nice. So you can do it right there. That's actually pretty convenient. I wish I would have known that a little while ago. All right. So that's good. Again, I should stay up with this. Okay, what else do we have? Fixed. Pressing play at the end of the timeline moves you to the beginning of the view instead of the beginning of the project. So I'm guessing that if I had a selection of time like this that went to the end of my project, and I got to the end here and I pressed the space bar, that this playhead would have moved back to the beginning of my project instead of moving back to just this selection like it just did. That's my guess. Added ability to set width and height of media in the properties panel. Great. I'm actually going to come back to this in our last question. Let's see. Fix, prompt the trial. Okay. So that is it. All right. Well, let's talk about this thing next. So added the width and height property for item for media. As I'm doing this, I'm going to go through, this is going to be our last question. It'll take a little while to get through this last question. But while I'm doing that, if you have questions, please throw those into chat. I'll just jump over real quick. Doesn't look like there are any questions right now, but go ahead and throw them into chat. If you have a question you want me to answer live for you, I'll be happy to do that. In the meantime, let's look at this question. Is this an animation or behavior? Is it possible to make a straight horizontal line appear from the middle, stretching out to both sides, and then having the text appear from under the line to the top? And he hoped that he or she, I think Chame is male. I don't actually know that, so forgive me if I don't get your gender correct. I mean no disrespect. So this person, this student, wants to know how to do that, and so I'm happy to show that. So the first thing we want to do, I'm going to go over to annotation. So the first thing we want is this line, and I'm going to show you my screen so you can see what's going on in Camtasia. All right, so I might think that I want to start with a line. Okay, so I could grab a line here, and I could extend this out. I actually don't prefer to use a line, and that's because we do have a limitation on the thickness. So it only lets me go up to 100. That's one problem. The other bigger problem I have is centering. So right here, I'm in the center of, or I'm not in the center, I'm in the middle as far as the vertical orientation goes. So I'm here, but if I try to center this in the center right to left, horizontally, I can't, there's no yellow snap line for this. And that annoys me. I want a yellow snap line. I don't have that for this. So instead, I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard, and I'm going to go over to my shapes. I'm going to grab a shape, bring that in. So I'm just going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to take this rectangle and make it as tall of a line as I want. So I'm going to make it, maybe I want it this thick or this thick. Now, I want to look over here, and we currently now have these width and height. And so now I can grab this, I can drag it to the center. So middle vertically and horizontally. There we go. And maybe I want the height to be only 4 pixels. Okay, let me try that again. 4, there we go. Please enter a number between 8 and, okay, and 999. Okay, so I want 8 then, apparently. That's odd because I know I can get smaller than that. So I use the scroll wheel to zoom up, and I'm going to grab this and I'm going to drag it up. And I can grab it and drag it. There it is at 4. Might even be able to get smaller. I know I had it earlier today where it was a height of 2, but for now, I'm going to leave it at a height of 4. I'm going to look for my yellow snap line here. Where's my yellow snap line? Oh, it's really hard to grab that guy. That is very difficult to grab. Oh, there it was. And then I let go of it. Where did you go? Holy moly. I'll grab it down here on the timeline. That'll be easier. Then I can put my mouse over top. Make sure I'm centered. There we go. Okay. I think that is centered. Just hard to see the yellow snap line whenever you have a white back. Oh, so let's just change it. Let's make it a different color. Let's say we want this to be gray. So I want my rectangle to be a gray color. I know you can't see the color choice. There we go. So gray is what I want. I'll use the scroll wheel to zoom back out. Maybe that's a little darker than I want. Maybe I want it a little lighter. I'll just brighten that up a little bit. Okay. So the first question is, I want to animate this, or the first part of the question is, I want to animate this from the center. How do I do that? So I put it to the end state. So maybe I want it this long, or maybe actually I don't. Maybe I want it to be, how long? Instead of 1474, I want it to be 960. I don't know, what's that look like? Sure, that looks great. Okay, so now it's exactly 960. Or it changed it to 959. That is interesting. How about 952? 951. Why are you dropping it by 1? Interesting. So 961, it's now 960. Okay, so maybe we just found a bug there. I don't know. That's curious. So I typed in 961. It brings me to 960. All right. So this is the end state. What's the beginning state? So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to zoom in on this part here, just 5 seconds. And we said we want it to start basically from nothing. We want it to be much smaller. So I'm going to make sure this is selected. This line is selected here at the bottom. I'm going to do a Shift-A to add an animation. And I'm going to go to the beginning of that animation, and I want this to be much smaller. Well, how much smaller do I want? Well, I want it to be like a dot. So let me zoom in here, make it a little easier for myself. So we're going to go right to here, and I'm going to zoom. I'm going to bring it to the center as much as I can. Try and find that. Well, okay, I'm going to try. Drag it to the center. There we go. And then make it as short as possible. We want to make sure it goes back to that height of 4. There it is. Now it's a height of 4. Can we make it even smaller? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wow, we can make it super small. So let's position this now so it's right in the center. So now it's starting at basically nothing. If I zoom out and I deselect it, I can't even see it. It's so tiny. And then as I go through, then it expands out. Perfect. So that's the first thing we want to do. Now, when I play through this, that might be as fast as I want. I actually want it a little faster than that. So let me drop this. Let's try like 8 frames. That might be too fast. Maybe 10 frames. I don't know. So you get to decide how long you want that to appear. So that is the first part. Can I make this thing appear in the center? Yes. There it is. The next part is they want to have their name appear. I assume it's a name. Could be the title of the video or something like that. So let's add that next. So I'm going to go over to my text and grab the text. And like I said, I'm guessing it's, the name of the person or the name of the video. So the other thing I'll do is just stretch this out all the way to both sides. And whatever the title may be, this is the title. There we go. Okay, that looks pretty good. So again, I'm starting with my end state in mind. This is where I want it to end. Now down at the bottom, what I need to do is make that appear from the bottom and then come up. So to think about this, I'm thinking about, first of all, you have to do this in Camtasia 2020. This is not available in older versions of Camtasia. What I'm really thinking is I want to hide something, and then I want the text to come up from behind it. But I want this thing to be invisible. So I want to have something there, and then something else appear from there. My face, okay, good. I wanted to make sure my face came back into focus. So I know I want the text here, so I basically, again, just want to hide it behind a block, some kind of block. So that's all I'm going to do. That's the way we're going to make that appear. So let's jump back to Camtasia and try that. So I said this is the end state. I said I really want to hide it behind a block. So I'm going to grab a block and we'll make it, I'll make it the width of the entire video. And I want it to appear right there at the center. Maybe at the center, actually, maybe a little bit above. I'm going to use the up arrows like 3 or 4 or 5 times to go up just a little bit from the bottom. Okay, and I want this to match up with my text. So what I'm saying here is, maybe, okay, I'm going to leave it like this for now. So I said I want this to appear out from behind it, but I'm going to go to my text, I'm going to add an animation. And to make this easier to see, I'm going to change this box to a different color. We'll just make it red for now, just so we can see where things are. So at the beginning of my animation, I want the text here below it. Okay. But again, I want it to be hidden, kind of like it is now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click the eyeball icon here, and I'm going to choose Alpha Invert. I think that's the one I want. So Alpha Invert, and now as my title comes up, notice that it is like appearing down from below, right? So it's like cutting off. It's just showing the top part, and then it appears that way as it slides up. Okay, so that's the way I would do that. If you know my process, whenever I do something like this, I immediately like to select both of those, right-click, do a quick group, or Control-G, and then I can disable this Alpha Invert here on the left. So now I don't have to worry about that. Now it just comes up and plays. Okay, so as I explained that, I started thinking the other way to do that is to put a block at the top, have the information here at the bottom, and then have it appear into that block, whatever that block may be. So it's just another way to do this. Let me show you that. It's just using alpha instead of Alpha Invert, but it's the same idea. So let's jump back to Camtasia, and I'll just slide this guy off here to the right. And same kind of idea. Actually, let me grab the text because that'll be helpful. Just reuse that text. Copy, paste. Okay, so there's that title at the bottom. And it's going to appear up there. And so like I said, the other option is to have it appear here like this and appear into this rectangle. So again, I'll just make this rectangle red so we can see what that is. So it should be hidden at this point, and then as it comes up and intersects the red, then it should become visible. So to do that, again, I'll go here to the lower right, and I'll right-click on the eye icon. And in this case, I'll choose alpha. So I want to show what's behind the rectangle rather than hide what's behind the rectangle. So I'll choose alpha, and then let me play through this to make sure that it looks good. So I'll play through, and it does the exact same thing. Okay. Again, I would select both of these, right-click and group, so that I can right-click here and turn this alpha off. Okay, so two ways to get to the same result. It's up to you how you want to think about it. In my mind, I think about the text being like exposed from behind something. That's the way my mind initially thought of this. But like I said, it could be like that you have a window, if you want to think of it that way, like you cut out a window and now this text is going to appear from below that window. Okay. So that's the way you would do that. Probably if I was doing this, I'm guessing you would want to have something like, maybe this at the top and then maybe a subtitle appear below. If so, we would just do the exact same thing. We would add text below and then have it appear below. But that is how you perform that task. Let me jump over and see if there are any live questions. I don't see any live questions, so that is great. I did want to show you one other thing as I'm wrapping up. And that was, I'm in a Facebook group where somebody saw this particular funnel, and you can't see it. And now you can see it. So somebody had done this animation inside Adobe, and they were like, hey, can you do this anywhere else? And somebody else other than me piped in and said, I think you can do something like this in Camtasia. And I thought, wow, that would be really hard to do. So if you look here, this person has an animation going on in the background. Something appears, and then text, and then this comes in. Actually, let me just hit play so you can see this in real time. So things are happening, something pops out, text, that, and then something. And then as we go through, there's the next thing, and then that appears, and that appears. So this appears throughout this entire, he's talking about a funnel. And so just to show you, it took about 4 hours to do this, but it looks like maybe I made a change. Let me just, well, I'll just play through. That shouldn't, okay, yeah, I obviously made some kind of change there, but you can see there's the information pouring in and then all those things happening off to the side. All right, so I was able to make that happen inside Camtasia. Like I said, it took about 4 hours, a little less than 4 hours to do all that. But just wanted to show you like the power of Camtasia. You can do this crazy stuff. Like, I think, like when I look at this, I'm actually kind of surprised that you can do all those things in Camtasia. Right, like just to see all that play through again. I think that's pretty cool. And like I said, this one item, it should be, I don't know, I guess it should start later. I'm not sure why it appeared there. Does it appear at the right point now? I don't know. I'll just undo. But when I did it initially, it was fine. And probably if I reload, it'll look just fine. Oh, I know what I did. It's this. It is this track here. It doesn't matter. You don't care. You don't care. Right? It's something like this. Now if I play through, there we go. So now it animates properly. Anyway, you get the idea. It just looks pretty darn cool to me. I like how that looks. I think that's pretty slick how you can do that. So look, Camtasia can do just a ton of stuff. Of course, I've been using Camtasia for over a decade, maybe not quite a decade, right around there though. I love it. I teach it, so I use it all the time. So to create that in 4 hours for me, it would probably take other people longer to create. But it's such a powerful tool to be able to see that you can create these things. And all I did, just to show, there are two parts that I didn't use from within Camtasia. So the background, which is that paper, I downloaded that, and I downloaded this waterfall video. So that was it. Everything apart from that is all done inside Camtasia. So I made, these oval or these, circular funnel looking things and everything else all inside Camtasia. If it took me about 4 hours to create, it would take me probably 8 hours to show you how I did all that. And I don't think anybody wants that, but just want to show you again, Camtasia is so powerful. It's so great. And if you have questions about some of the things that I've done, I'd be happy to answer those for you and show you, just help you in your Camtasia journey. So I'm going to jump one last time over to questions. No live questions. So that is it. Thank you so much for stopping by and attending this. If there are ways that I can help you in Camtasia, please let me know. It's been my honor to serve you today. I hope to see you again.